Hi guys, we're watching this little girl over there standing by the footpath. Let's see what she's looking at. She's looking at, a lot of boys there. That's what she's looking at, huh? They're playing volleyball, I think. Okay, I'm here in, as you can see, we're here in Club Safari. Beautiful day, it's a Sunday and a sunny day. It's nice and quiet. I've been here, I just uploaded some fresh videos about my friend Dale Australian, who was here yesterday, so check it out guys. You can always watch and like and subscribe. I turned down the TV so that I can talk to you guys. The TV is playing over there, some crazy Filipino show, right? All is cool. Today I still want to talk about Mr. Motorcycle Mechanic, you know, this self-professed and self-proclaimed expert on Africa and China who loves nothing better than to fucking insult and talk down us Africans. And I'm gonna start to propagate what he's saying about us on, you know, African vlogs and stuff, so people can know much more about him and his motives. I think his motives are very... Hey, it's starting to rain, guys. She's still there. She's still... I think it's raining. I think it's drizzling. She's still standing out in the rain. There she goes. Oh. Uh-oh, she got her little boy there. There they go. Hey, that's a knife. Oh, he's finished working. I think he was working there. There they go. Anyway, nice post there, done by little Leah. She painted that post. Okay, so we're gonna talk about this guy. You know the other. Here I am, by the way. Here I am in all my glory. You know, the other thing that I find totally fucking utterly ridiculous is that people are commenting, you know, on this fucking dude's vlogs, you know, like, oh, Winston is like 007 and Winston is like some fucking sort of fake movie star bullshit, you know, like a tough, like an action hero, you know what I mean? I mean, my God, the barrier for action heroes seem to be getting lower every day, huh? Who would have thought that? Well, talking about action hero, we made a movie last year in Hong Kong. I hope it will be out pretty much this time. Very, very good movie. Talking about action. I was the bodyguard in that movie. But anyway, I will tell you more about that later. Anyway, yeah, so for me it's fascinating that there are actually people in the world that will see Mr. Winston as a fucking tough dude, a fucking action kind of guy or action hero. What? You look at the dude, you know, I mean, he's a fucking... he looks to me pretty worthless when it would come to any kind of action, like a war or facing a motorbike gang, being attacked by a fucking gang of triads with machetes, like it's happened to me, being, you know, facing some serious fucking dudes, you know. I don't want to talk too much about myself because people will accuse me of you know, whatever, you know, of blowing my own horn. As we all know, a lot of people out there will blow my horn. I don't have to do it myself, but I just want to speculate about all this fascination with this tough dude. You know, coming from South Africa, and at the end of this talk, I will give you guys my own personal rating on the toughness or the lack of toughness of Mr. Winston himself. So just stand by for that. Now, just a little background here. You know, I grew up in Africa, in the middle of South Africa, in you know, during the hard times. My family was basically what's called poor whites. We were just one step above because my father had a job. His own father died when he was very young, I think 10 or 12. So he grew up without a father and he joined the police as soon as he could. I don't know what age, 15, 16 years old, as soon as he could. And then police got very little money in South Africa. My brother is still in the uniform, so he's getting a bit better now. He's been almost 30 years. He wants to retire in about 3 years and then maybe he will come and visit me here. He's still a lot younger than me. And he would have 30 years of service, so that'll be okay for him. But anyways, so we grew up pretty poor, but you know, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing. I had to get up every morning. If I wanted to have breakfast, I had to go chop the wood in the morning, or you know, or of course if the previous day or during the holidays, my father would buy a whole fucking huge tree trunk, hardwood, and we would chop it up. Spend the whole 6 weeks chopping wood. It was very good for me, and I'm not complaining about that. I think, you know, at my age now, I'm thankful for growing up poor and having had to do all that hard work. So you know, I grew up with, and my friends, because we were, you know, most of the whites, you know, we lived in this little town. My father gave up the police after he shot someone, and then you know, there were death threats, and he was afraid. He got married in the meantime to my mother, and then he decided to give up the police and moved away. He joined the railroad, and we grew up next to the railroad in small little towns, frontier-style towns in the middle of Africa, in the middle of South Africa. And I remember my friends were all black kids from the farms, because we lived on the edge of the town. And every weekend they would come down, these black boys, like 40, 50 of them, 20 of them, 30 of them. Me and my brother, who has passed away now, sadly, he died overnight. He was fishing on the river, or the Orange River, the biggest river in South Africa. He was a hunter and a fisherman and a very good sportsman. He was also rated the best soldier at 8th South African Infantry Battalion. And him and me, we were both on the border in Angola. I was in intelligence. I made the intelligence school. He was in infantry. Anyway, so yeah, him and me, he was 1 year younger than me, my brother, and then we would have 2 teams of black boys, black kids. And we would do any kind of fucking, you know, rugby. Our favorite sport was stone fights. You could pick stones, rocks, or hardened earthen clods, no bigger than your fist, and then we pelted each other with these stones or what. Well, the general rule was you try not to hit somebody in the face or the head, right? But the whole body was free to be pelted. And then we had sticks as well, so when you come up to close quarters, we would beat each other with sticks and stuff. That was our favorite activities, you know. My brother once fucking hit me with he got so angry because I hit him with a stone, I think in the ribs or whatever, I don't remember, but he picked up a fucking brick and he crawled up onto me from behind, and when I turned around, he hit me right above the head, cracked my skull here. My mother that's the first time I've seen her really furious. She was viciously beating him, but you know, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I've been knocked out, KO'd twice in my life. First time was by a wild donkey. I was around 9 or 10. We were catching these donkeys, trying to ride them. The one donkey kicked my friend, the neighboring son, David, kicked him on the kneecapped him, fucking just bone splinters, you know, on the knee. I tried to, you know, and it's a long story, but anyway, so yeah, I grew up there. You know, these black kids, man. My best friend was called Tabiso. He was a Sutu, Basutu, Mosutu, from the Sutu tribe. There's a country in the middle of South Africa called Lesotho. Look at the map. And he, for many, many years, he had the biggest muscles, you know, like here on his bicep. And that was the first time in my life I saw, you know, he had a huge muscle on the bicep, but then he had this huge muscle. And on top of this muscle, he had another little muscle. And many years later, some woman, a Brazilian woman there in Shenzhen, China, she gave me an encyclopedia written not encyclopedia, bodybuilder handbook, whatever, by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And in this book, I saw photos of professional bodybuilders, you know, after I don't know how many years of practicing or training or whatever they do, working out. They managed to build up this little muscle on top of the other muscle, you know. But my friend, Tabiso, the black boy, I think he was like 10 or 12, he had exactly this kind of muscle. From hard fucking work. Like I said, we chopped wood every day. We did a lot of fucking hard labor. And then on the weekends, we would fucking beat the shit out of it. We had bare knuckle fights all the time. You know, my father would pay these black boys to beat me up. My father was a very good boxer, by the way. He was fucking awesome and very fast. Although he became a little bit alcoholic and he was a heavy smoker, so yeah, so never smoke, guys. And I love drinking, but control your drinks too. So anyway, long story short, in the army, I just told you. And then, interesting little story. When I was in South Africa, I grew up in an area where we were totally Afrikaner, no English. One time, two brothers from England actually arrived there. Somebody's showing up here. I'll walk. And the whole town turned out, to see these English boys, because it was like really unusual. I'm walking inside. Hey, Jason!
Hi.
Somebody arrived here in front. I'm going upstairs there. There's maybe a customer up there. Okay, anyway, so, English was, and we grew up, because we grew up, the Boer War, or the English, we call it the English War, the English call it the Boer War, which happened in 1899 to 1902. The epicenter of this war was in the Orange Free State, where I was born, and then the concentration camps where the English rounded up Boer women and children, and where fucking tens and tens and tens of thousands of them, we believe that many of them were murdered. The English said it was neglect, but bullshit. So we grew up with these people who were still alive from the Boer War, and then we grew up with a really intense dislike of the English, and. The idea to pretend that you're an Englishman as a South African anathema would be totally unthinkable, like what kind of fucking South African would ever, the only thing you want to do with an Englishman is to fucking beat the shit out of them. That was our philosophy growing up. Then when I went to Taiwan, 1990, I went to Hong Kong, I think it was the first time, and I was standing in this. At that time, Hong Kong was still a British colony, believe it or not. And I was standing in this underground bar there in Tsim Sha Tsui, TST, near, not far from Chongqing Mansion. That time, Chongqing Mansion was very vibrant. Now it's fucking a shithole, full of gangs and gangsters and drugs, very dangerous. A lot of people, a guy was murdered outside my door one day while I was busy inside with a beautiful little girl, by the way. It was long stories. Maybe I'll write my book about it. So anyway, and then suddenly behind me, I ordered the beer at the counter, and then at the bar, and behind me I started, some guys who started talking about killing, about fucking like a heavy duty talk, like war and fucking death and destruction, and I peeped over my shoulder and I saw that they were four really big guys. Each of them were like a head taller than me, very short hair, t-shirts, full of tattoos, But they kept talking about war and destruction, so I thought, hey, I took my beer in my hand, I turned around. As I turned around, I was in their circle suddenly. I was just a part of their circle, And they all looked at me like, hey, and one of them said, where are you? And I said, I'm Francois. And then the other one said, where are you from? And I said, South Africa. And then they looked at me like, oh. And then the one said, were you in the army? I said, yes. And they said, oh, okay, welcome, join us. It turned out that they were from the British garrison in Hong Kong. Very friendly. They started like questioning me about the South. Then I realized that the South African army was seen at that time as the best army in the world by these professional soldiers. They were in awe, admiration of the South African army. The history of South Africa, the Boers, the commando system that we developed, and we had a very nice discussion about it. And then their commander, who was I think a commander of the camp, he was a big guy. He told those guys, okay guys, the three of them, he said, okay guys, I think they were officers, and he was the commander in chief of this garrison, colonel or something. I don't remember his rank. I wish I could remember his name, but it was like a really wild night. So he told them, listen guys, you go back to the garrison. Then he turned to me and said, look, have you ever been to Wan Chai? I said, no, it's my first time in Hong Kong. He said, okay, follow me. So we ended up in Wan Chai, and then he said, okay, there's about, I don't remember, about 100 bars and girly bars and fucking clubs in this place, in this area. And he said, the challenge is we're going to have a drink in each and every bar. And we started right there, and then we went up, and he paid for everything. I mean, like, and everything was like just fucking top shelf, whiskeys, whatever you want, whiskeys. But he loved whiskey, so I think we stuck to whiskey most of the time. So, you know, I don't know. I honestly don't remember how many bars we went and how many drinks we had, but it was a lot, because I woke up in the morning. It was morning because the sun was up, or it was daylight. And somebody was shaking me like this, you know, and I was like, what? And I was lying on a cement floor or cement pavement or whatever, and I could see this leg. I was surrounded by a forest of legs, you know, people very well dressed. I looked at the shoes. I was lying on my side, you know. I was lying, basically, I was on the floor, on the ground like this, and then. Just like this, stretched out, and then I was like this, you know, and I was looking, oh, you know, all these legs, and the guy shaking me was a policeman, and I looked up at him and I said, yeah, what do you want? He's like, you have to get up, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I sat up, I got up like this, and then I looked, I said, oh my God, there's like a whole forest of people here. They're all very well dressed, and then the policeman said, come, get up and go, leave. I'm like, okay. He was a Chinese Hong Kong police, Hong Kong Royal Police. I jumped up, I walked away, and then I looked behind me. It was the bank. I passed out in front of the main entrance of the bank. It was Monday morning. Everybody wanted to come to work. And you see, that's another Chinese thing. None of these Chinese bank employees would wake me up. Would shake me and say, hey dude, get up. They would call the police. That is giving an indication of Chinese culture, which we will discuss later more and more. So anyway, yeah, so growing up in Africa, so, you know, I don't understand what is this whole fascination that Winston is such a fucking tough dude and blah blah blah. I don't get it, you know. I mean, like I said, I don't want to blow, like somebody said, blow smoke rings up your own ass. You know, I can tell you stories that nobody would believe here. Absolutely nobody. Everybody would say, Frank, you're a fucking bold-faced, blatant bullshitter and liar, if I tell you the story of my life. So I don't want to go that far. But, you know, rating Mr. Winston, if you rate him in the levels of toughness, you know, toughness and meanness, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know how you want to call it, but it would be like saying, okay, I'm going to put my people, the Afrikaners, I will put them at the top of the heap of tough people in the world ever, because we are a few million people in Africa. We've survived for hundreds of years, you know, in the most hostile conditions ever known to human beings. And we have not only survived, we have thrived and survived, okay? So, and we are very well respected all over Africa, all over the world, actually, right? Maybe not in China, maybe not in a tiny little mind of somebody like Mr. Winston, but or his Chinese buddies. But in the rest of the world, I think we are very well respected. Afrikaners, Boers, Winston Churchill himself tremendously respected the Boers. That's why he named his best forces, he named them commandos. Commando is a South African word. It comes from South Africa, the whole concept of commando. So I'll put the South Africans, specifically Afrikaners, at the top of the hill here as tough people, right? And then, you know, let's say it's like okay, the Afrikaner is going to shit on the next one. I don't know. Maybe it depends on your opinion. Who is really tough? It could be the Zulus, and also of South Africa. It could be the Gurkhas. I had a fight with the Gurkhas once in Hong Kong. Like fucking cracked me on the skull, and it was a very funny story, because the next morning early I went to a movie interview and so on. It was very good. I'll tell you that story later. Anyway, so yeah, various tough peoples, you know. Some people would say these and that. I think the Filipinos are very tough. The Filipinos here are very nice people, but tough too. So anyway, you know, South Africans, the Afrikaner, we would shit on because, you know, if there's a hierarchy of toughness, you know, we would be allowed to shit on the next guys, and they would be shitting on the next ones, and all the way down, you know. And then at the bottom, you would probably get to, right at the bottom, you would get to these horribly fat, obese Americans and Europeans in general, you know, like they couldn't survive 1 hour. If you put them out in the jungle or in the desert, literally they'll be dead in 1 single hour. But so then who are, and the Chinese are just hopeless. I mean, they would, if you take them out of their fucking their air-conditioned apartments, they would drop dead crossing the road, you know, to the 7-Eleven. The 7-Eleven would be like the promised land for them, you know. Like, so you have these people are right at the bottom, you know, and I guess they would be shitting on their teddy bears or something, or maybe the dogs, the poor unlucky fucking poodles or whatever they keep, but these little shitty little fluffy dogs that they love to keep, the Chinese. And then probably the dog is gonna look around like this, hey, who the fucking I shit on, you know, and then they would go like, hey, there is Mr. Winston over there, you know. So that is where I rank Mr. Winston in level of toughness. Okay, he's not ranked. He's not, you know. I mean, at the bottom there, all these human beings, you know, these Chinese and these obese fuckers from the West. How did they get into the gene? And these people that admire Winston. Okay, I guess Winston has these fucking subs that he can shit on. Now I don't know where they rank in terms of human genomes, and you know, they got. I don't know how they got into the gene pool. The fucking lifesaver was definitely not on duty. He was fucking not even drunk. He was high as a kite. Maybe he had a sense of humor. He let these people in, you know, these subs of Winston into the gene pool, you know. So yeah, guys, there you got it, straight from the horse's mouth. The old China hand, the real fucking dude, not the fucking whitewashed bullshit that you watch on Mr. Winston's. But anyway, go ahead, make my day, as they say. But we'll continue our discussion about his exploits and his some of it blatant fucking lies. I'm gonna expose that more and more. Okay, cheers. We're finished here. Cheers.